In March of 2018, Newsnight broadcast its first report on bullying and harassment in the House of Commons. It contained a raft of accusations from current and former staff members employed by the House, alleging unacceptable behaviour by MPs.
He sort of manoeuvred me out into the corridor and put his arms around me and kissed me on the lips.
The MP exploded at me so aggressively that my colleague stood between us to physically shield him from me.
The investigation shed light on a culture of harassing and bullying. Less than a year before, the Speaker of the House, John Bercow, had spoken on the issue.
There must be zero tolerance of sexual harassment or bullying here at Westminster or elsewhere.
But Newsnight revealed that the reality was very different. In fact, the Speaker himself was accused of bullying a staff member who was reportedly signed off sick due to his behaviour. The Speaker vehemently denied the claims. The key issue was that many staff members in the House, particularly women, felt they had no protection from the small minority of MPs who harassed or bullied their staff, as a committee of MPs had the final say on any action taken. David Leakey, the former Black Rod, whose responsibility was keeping order in the House of Lords, spoke out against the Speaker's bullying and unreasonable behaviour. So did Angus Sinclair, the Speaker's former private secretary.
There was a tirade of how I'd let him down. It was quite the worst thing, a lot of bad language. And suddenly his mobile phone, which he'd been holding, was flung on the desk in front of me, and it broke into a lot of bits.
Former High Court Judge Dame Laura Cox was appointed to look into how the House deals with bullying and harassment complaints. In October of 2018, she published her report, which found a culture cascading from the top down of deference, subservience, acquiescence and silence, in which bullying, harassment and sexual harassment have been able to thrive and have long been tolerated and concealed. Crucially, Dame Laura recommended that the process for determining complaints of bullying, harassment or sexual harassment should be an entirely independent process in which MPs will play no part. Today, 2 years and 3 months after that first report, the House debated whether to establish an independent panel of 8 experts to deal with bullying allegations against MPs.
As leader of this House, I'm ashamed when people come to see me and tell me what they have suffered. Appalled at the stories that they tell me. Shocked sometimes they haven't been to the police about them, they're so awful. And that's why we have to have this change, which does hit at the heart of our Constitution.
In contention was whether MPs should be able to debate the serious cases investigated by the independent panel, which could put staff off reporting bad behaviour, even if they're kept anonymous.
Order!
But tonight MPs voted to rule out Commons debates on serious complaints against MPs, a move which will mean Commons staff have more trust in the process.
The noes, the left, 238. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Well, just a little earlier I spoke to Jenny McCullough. She was one of the House of Commons clerks who complained to the Commons and told Newsnight she'd been bullied. I began by getting her reaction to what she'd heard tonight of the vote.
Well, it means that there's now going to be an independent process in place for dealing with complaints at the House of Commons that MPs won't play any part in until the very last stage, when they get to vote whether to approve the most serious of sanctions.
And what difference does that actually make?
Well, it makes a huge difference to staff who are in the House now, because they can have confidence that the complaint system is independent and can be trusted, that their complaints will be investigated properly and treated fairly.
What kind of impact do you think it will have on those working in the Commons now?
Well, I hope it will help to change the culture there. I know there's a lot of work going on already to make it a better and safer place to work with normal standards of human resources and working practices in place. But I think some of the old attitudes still remain, and now staff will be able to see that the procedures are in place and, all being well, have confidence to go ahead and to use them and seek support and get a fair outcome.
Do you know of other cases, are you aware of other cases that you think might come to light now as a result of this being independent of MPs?
Yes, I think so. Certainly I know of cases where the potential complainant was deterred by the prospect of MPs being able to debate cases at the very end of the process. I know of a number of people who said that they wouldn't go anywhere near a system where that was the last stage.
How many more people do you think will come forward that you know of?
I couldn't put a number on it. I mean, I think it's only a very small minority of MPs and of staff of the Commons who would behave in such a way as to merit complaints, but because of the culture that has built up over a number of years, there are outstanding complaints. So I think it will take some time to resolve those.
So, as you say, it's a small minority of MPs, but when you talk about the culture, you mean what, a sort of culture of complicity, of protection almost?
Yes, that's right. In her inquiry, Dame Laura Cox identified a culture of deference and subservience, and there is a power imbalance in the Commons, and some of that is of necessity, obviously, because MPs do have a particular status, and we respect that they represent thousands of people, but that doesn't make them immune from normal standards of behaviour, and it doesn't mean that staff shouldn't be able to expect to be treated decently at work.
Since you brought your case, which Newsnight heard, we have a new speaker, we have a new government. Do you have confidence that the culture itself has now changed?
I think there's been a lot of progress. I think some of the old attitudes still do remain, and that it'll take time to bed in. And I think in every organisation, every group of people, there's going to be a range of behaviour. But what really matters is where the critical mass is, and a lot of that depends on the tone that is set at the top of the organisation. That younger and newer members of staff learn to emulate and to aspire to. That's what really matters.
You brought allegations of bullying against Keith Vaz, who's no longer in that position. Keith Vaz denied the accusations. Do you think you'll ever get an apology or compensation for what you went through? Are you seeking that?
I can't talk about the details of the complaint that I made about Keith Vaz. It's on the record that I said I was going to do it. What I'm really concerned about is that what happened to me shouldn't happen to anybody else. What happened to my friends and my old colleagues shouldn't happen to anybody else. And I think today, even though it was a defeat for the government and a huge change by some people's terms to the Constitution, really. I think today everybody at the House of Commons has won because it'll be a better place to work. And that is much more important to me than the outcome of any individual case, including my own.
Jenny McCullough, thank you very much indeed.